This is something you don't see too often in the middle of a cemetery. A remnant of the past. Not sure what these walls are for. There's no bridge here. But we are at Irving Park Cemetery right now in Norridge, Illinois, just a little north of the city of Chicago. And we're going to check out some interesting graves in this cemetery. Most notably, there are 3 different people here that were gangsters back in the 1920s that were victims of the St. Valentine's Massacre. So let's go take a look. Now, most of us are familiar with the St. Valentine's Massacre. It happened on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 1929. And this is back in the days where Al Capone was running part of Chicago, Bugs Moran was running another part, and it was gang wars. They were fighting over territory and fighting over pretty much everything. But the name of the game was to take over different territories. And they were trying to wipe out Bugs Moran's gang. And in that morning, there was a garage on Clark Street. And they were faking basically a fake police raid. And 2 men were in police uniforms, fake uniforms. And there were 2 other men in suits and ties, and they came in with Thompson submachine guns, lined them up against the back wall, and just brutally executed them. And I believe there were 7 victims, but one of them is right up here. And this is Albert Kachellek, who was one of Bugs Moran's people. This appears to be a family plot here. And I'm trying not to step on anybody, so I'm just going to zoom in instead of move closer. But that is a beautiful headstone. But Albert Kachellek, there's not a whole lot of information out there other than the fact that he was one of Bugs Moran's people. But he was one of the guys that was gunned down in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929. Pretty short life, 1887 to 1929. And Elma, 1894 to 1970. But Albert Kachellek, it's a very peaceful place today. Now over here is going to be 2 more of the victims of the St. Valentine's Massacre, and these are going to be 2 brothers. This is going to be Frank and Peter Gusenberg. Now, Peter Gusenberg, they were both associates of the Bugs Moran gang. Frank was an enforcer, he was a contract killer, he was a strong arm, and he was one of Bugs Moran's guys. His brother Peter, there's not a lot of information out there of him, so I'm not sure what exactly he did in the gang, but I don't know if his brother just kind of brought him in and said, you know, he's a good guy, we'll take care of him, or if he was just a hand that day. But Frank Gusenberg was a big part of Bugs Moran's gang, and this is the Gusenberg family plot right here. This is the stone. It doesn't look like any of them are individually marked. There's just a family stone that is just labeled Gusenberg. And there's no mention of any of them here. It is known that this is where they're at. But this is a family plot, but nobody is individually marked. This is over here is a Marks. And this is Steinbrecher. But there is a pretty decent sized plot right around here, so there's obviously quite a few people here, but they are not marked. And if we back up here, and yes, I'm being very careful not to step over anybody. And this is the Robinson and the Schulz family plot here. So the Gusenberg plot is just kind of a lonely plot right here in the middle. But Frank and Peter Gusenberg, 2 of the members of Bugs Moran gang, and 2 more guys that tragically lost their lives at the St. Valentine's Massacre. Just a brutal time in American history, especially in Chicago. But I will try to visit a couple of the other victims. Like I said, we saw 3 out of the 7 today. There are a couple of more in the Chicago area, but I do plan on visiting all of them at some point. Today I was going to visit the Jack Ruby grave, this is Irving Park Cemetery. Right across the street down there is the West Lawn Cemetery, which is where Jack Ruby and a few others are. But unfortunately, they are not open today. So I'm going to have to come back and try to do that one again. But that's pretty much all I have for today. Thanks for joining on this short video, and we'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody.